The trophy was in his son's hands. The championship was won. But Kang Min-jun's triumph shattered the moment he read the tutor's real name on his phone. She was the disgraced professor who tried to burn his university to the ground, and he had just paid her $300,000 to save his son. This is Dr. Amara Oak, former star professor of ethics at Sejong University, and Kang Min-jun, a billionaire whose donations kept its gates polished. Their worlds were built to collide. One wanted the truth exposed, the other needed it buried, until his son's future forced them into the same room. 6 months before the trophy, Amara Oak stood at a different podium. Not in a private study, but in Sejong University's main lecture hall, facing 300 students. Her final lecture wasn't on ethics, it was an autopsy. She laid out the evidence with clinical precision. Admission records showing names swapped for larger donations. Research papers, published under prestigious professors' names, that were word-for-word copies of work submitted by graduate students who'd since vanished from the roster. A secret ledger, leaked to her by a terrified administrator, tracking how special donations bypassed the university's official fund. The room was silent. Phones were recording. Amara knew what came next. Whistleblowers don't win in systems this polished. Nearly 2/3 face retaliation. They are fired, blacklisted, erased. Her dismissal letter arrived within 48 hours. Grounds: gross misconduct and violation of university confidentiality. No hearing. Her campus email was deactivated by lunchtime. The official news article, planted in the Korean Herald asterisk, called it a regrettable case of academic plagiarism, ironically framing her as the fraud she'd exposed. Overnight, 32 years of work vanished. Her visa, tied to her professorship, was set to expire in 90 days. No other university in the country would return her calls. The scandal was too hot, the donors she'd implicated too powerful. Among those donors was Kang Min-jun. His family's foundation had given Sejong $17 million over the past decade. A wing of the business school bore his father's name. The corruption Amara exposed didn't happen in a vacuum. It was lubricated by money like his. While Amara packed her office into cardboard boxes, Kang was dealing with his own crisis. His son June was failing, not just struggling. Bottom of his class at Seoul's most exclusive international academy. June's midterm report was a forest of red. Mathematics, 41%. Sciences, 38%. English comprehension, 50%. For Kang, this wasn't just embarrassment. It was a systemic threat. In Korea's hyper-competitive hierarchy, academic failure isn't a stumble. It's a generational collapse. Your son's university determines your family's social standing for the next 20 years. And June was on a trajectory that ended nowhere near the top 3 schools, Seoul National, Korea, or Yonsei, that were the only acceptable destinations. He had tried everything: standard tutors, elite cram schools known as Hagwons, motivational coaches. Nothing worked. June would shut down, retreat into sullen silence. The pressure was a wall he couldn't climb. Kang's fixer, a discreet woman named Mrs. Choi, made the suggestion. We need someone from outside the system, someone who doesn't know the rules so they can break them, a foreign tutor, perhaps a former professor. The ad was placed on a private expat job board. Live-in tutor, intensive remedial program, discretion required, generous compensation. Amara, scanning for any work that would extend her visa, saw it. The listed requirements were a mirror of her skills: advanced degree, experience with reluctant learners, a background in critical thinking. She applied under her middle name, Bella. She submitted a stripped-down CV that ended 5 years earlier. The interview was held in the Kang's Gangnam penthouse, a space of such severe minimalism it felt like a museum. Kang Min-jun assessed her from across a 10-meter marble table. Your references are vague, Ms. Bella. My most recent work involved sensitive contracts. Confidentiality is paramount. and you believe you can fix a broken student. Students aren't broken, Amara said, her professor's tone breaking through for a second. Systems are. I don't fix children, I dismantle the barriers around them. He hired her. Salary, $20,000 a month, plus a $300,000 bonus upon June's successful admission to a top-tier university. The contract included a strict NDA about the family's private affairs. Amara moved into the guest suite the next day. She met June that afternoon, an 11-year-old with the weary eyes of a retired bureaucrat. He didn't look at her. His first test, a basic logic puzzle, sat blank before him. They say you can't do it, Amara stated, not asking. June shrugged. Good, she said, sweeping the test away. Proving people wrong is the best motivation. We start tomorrow. No textbooks, no drills. Her method was unorthodox. She didn't teach math. She taught probability through poker, science through the chemistry of his favorite spicy ramen, English through dissecting the lyrics of American rap songs, analyzing metaphor and narrative. She engaged his mind, not his memory. June, for the first time in years, was curious. He started asking questions. He began to see patterns. Within 2 weeks, his practice scores jumped 20 points. Kang noticed the change not in the grades, which weren't due yet, but in his son's demeanor. June looked up when he entered a room. He spoke in full sentences. Kang was pleased. He authorized additional resources, whatever Ms. Bella needed. He also did a routine, discreet background check. The report came back clean. Bella Oak matched the limited paper trail, a graduate of the University of Lagos, a low-profile academic career in Nigeria, no red flags. But the background check firm was Korean, using Korean databases. They didn't think to scour Nigerian academic journals or the archives of a small, online ethics publication, where 4 months prior, a detailed article titled The Donor's Web, Systemic Corruption at Xiajiang, had been published under the name Dr. Amara Oak. Amara walked a tightrope every day. She avoided the news. She used a separate browser on her laptop. She lived in fear that June, becoming brighter and more inquisitive, would stumble upon her past. He once asked her why she left teaching. I disagreed with how the game was scored, she said, which was true. The first major test, a national practice exam for elite academies, was in 6 weeks. Amara drilled June relentlessly, but in her unique way. They debated ethics to sharpen his logic. They deconstructed advertising to understand persuasion. Kang watched from the doorway sometimes, a strange feeling in his chest. This tutor was performing a miracle. He felt a debt growing. One evening, after a long session, Kang offered her a drink in his study. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey. You have a gift, Ms. Bella. The way you explain complex ideas, it reminds me of someone. Amara's glass froze halfway to her lips. Oh. A professor I saw once, at a university fundraiser, gave a talk on moral philosophy, quite passionate, quite memorable. He was looking at her, really looking past the glasses, past the conservative blouse. Amara held his gaze, her heart a hammer against her ribs. The world is full of teachers, she said, her voice steady. Indeed, Kang said and took a slow sip. It's a small world sometimes. The next day, the invitation arrived, a glossy, embossed card. The Xiajiang University Chancellor's annual gala, a black-tie fundraiser. Kang Min-jun was a guest of honor, and as a key member of his household staff, Ms. Bella Oak was expected to attend, to help chaperone June. The gala was in 1 week, the very campus she had been expelled from, the Lion's Den. Amara stood in her room, holding the invitation, the university crest feeling like a brand against her fingers. She could decline, raise suspicion, or she could go and risk being recognized by any one of 100 former colleagues. She made her decision. She would go. She would become a ghost in the room. But as she placed the invitation on her desk, a gust of wind from the balcony caught a stack of June's old graded papers, scattering them. As she knelt to gather them, her eyes caught a watermark on one discarded sheet. It was from Xiajiang University's internal testing division, a division implicated in her leak. And in the corner of the page, in small print, was the name of the test designer, Dr. Park, the same administrator who had leaked the secret ledger to her and who had been quietly dismissed the day after she was fired. The web was smaller than she thought, and she was walking right into the center of it. The gala was a cathedral of everything Amara had tried to burn down. Crystal, marble, the low hum of power. She kept to the shadows, a ghost in a black dress, until a voice behind her said, "Dr. Oak, I thought you were deported." It was Dr. Park, the administrator who had leaked the ledger. He was holding a tray of empty champagne flutes, wearing a staff uniform. His eyes were hollow. "They didn't deport me," Amara whispered, steering him into an alcove. "They just made me unemployable. What happened to you?" "They said I had accounting irregularities." His laugh was dry. "Now I serve drinks at their parties. They like the irony." He told her the purge was deeper than she knew. 6 other staff who'd asked questions were gone. The secret donation fund had been renamed, moved offshore, cleaner. "They're not corrupt," Park hissed. "They're laundering their corruption, and your whistleblowing was just a speed bump." Across the room, Kang Min-jun was the center of a constellation of deans. The chancellor, a man named Yu, clapped him on the shoulder. "Min-jun, your generosity keeps our lights on. A shame about that unpleasantness with the Nigerian professor. Such a liar. But the house is clean now." Kang's smile was tight. "Liar." "Oh yes, we found she'd falsified her own credentials, a pattern of deceit." Chancellor Yu leaned in. "Funny story, our head of security said he saw someone who looked just like her on the way in tonight, with your son." Kang's blood went cold. He scanned the crowd, found Amara by the pillar, deep in conversation with a server. The pieces he'd been nudging for weeks clicked into a devastating whole: the passion in her teaching, the familiarity with university politics, the name Oak on a dismissed report he'd once skimmed. He excused himself, crossed the room. The crowd seemed to part for him. Amara saw him coming, a predator's grace. She dismissed Dr. Park with a nod. "Mr. Kang." A word outside. On the terrace, overlooking the university she'd scandalized, he didn't yell. His voice was a low, controlled blade. "Your real name is Dr. Amara Oak. You were fired from this university for fabricating evidence. You lied to me." Amara met his gaze. The professor was back. "I was fired for presenting evidence, and I didn't lie, I omitted. You are a fraud in my home, teaching my son. Is he learning?" "That's not the point." "It is the only point," she fired back. "You hired me to fix a problem. I am fixing it. My past is irrelevant to your son's future." "Your past is a weapon aimed at my reputation." Kang's control slipped. "The chancellor just told me you're a liar. If anyone finds out you're in my employ, it connects me to your scandal. It implies I endorse your accusations." Amara understood the real fear. It wasn't about her lies. It was about his truth. Her existence in his house was a live wire touching everything he'd built. "What do you want to do?" she asked. He wanted to fire her, to call security right then. But he saw June through the glass, laughing with a group of boys, animated in a way he'd never been. The national qualifying exam was in 4 weeks. June's practice scores were now in the 85th percentile, a miracle built by this woman. "You will finish the job," Kang said, each word forced. "You will get him into the national championship. Then you will disappear. The bonus will be paid and you will leave the country. If you speak to anyone ever about Xiajiang or your work for me, I will have you buried in litigation so deep you'll never see daylight." It was a deal with the devil, for both of them. The ride home was silent. June, exhausted, slept in the car. The next morning, the dynamic in the penthouse had shifted. Kang was no longer a grateful patron. He was a warden. He had Mrs. Choi install monitoring software on the tutoring room computer. He required weekly detailed reports, not on June's happiness, but on his exact numerical progress. The pressure became the third person in the room. Amara worked harder. She channeled her anger into June's lessons. They dissected logical fallacies. "This is how people in power twist the truth," she said, thinking of Chancellor Yu. They analyzed historical revolutions. June's mind sharpened into a scalpel. He began to ask why systems fail. It was the question that had cost Amara everything. Meanwhile, Kang did his own research. He had his legal team pull the sealed university report on the Oak matter. It was 50 pages of careful character assassination, but buried in Appendix B were photocopies of the leaked documents Amara had presented, donation records, memos. They were sloppy real. They bore the university's own letterhead. His lawyer, a cautious man named Kim, pointed at one memo. "This is a directive to backdate a scholarship for a board member's granddaughter. It's signed by the former vice-chancellor of admissions, who is now the chancellor." "You." "The same." Kang felt the ground tilt. The liar narrative was a fortress, but Amara's evidence had the weight of truth. He had built his fortune on reading people, on assessing risk, and the risk now was bifurcated. Risk 1, Amara's presence explodes and he is tainted. Risk 2, Amara's accusations are true and he has been funding a corrupt institution for a decade, laundering his own conscience with bricks and mortar. He didn't know which was worse. He started quietly diverting his foundation's donations, putting them on hold for review. "Chancellor," Yu called, all honeyed concern. "Is everything all right, Min Jun? We're counting on you for the new library wing." "Due diligence," Kang said. "It's a volatile economy." The national qualifying exam arrived. June sat for the 5-hour test in a silent hall with 500 other boys. Amara waited outside. Kang waited in his office, unable to focus. When June emerged, he didn't look exhausted. He looked exhilarated. "The essay question," he told Amara in the car. "It was about ethical leadership. I used the Roman Republic and the Cato Institute, just like we practiced." The results came out 72 hours later. June's name was on the list. Not just passing. He ranked in the top 50. He had qualified for the National Academic Championship, the most prestigious scholastic competition in the country. The Kang family phone began to ring with congratulations. Kang should have been elated. Instead, he was trapped. The championship was public, televised. The tutor of a finalist would be noticed, questioned. He made a decision. He called Amara to his study. "You will not attend the championship. You will resign, effective today, for family reasons. I will pay the bonus in full. You will be on a flight to Lagos tomorrow." Amara didn't move. "And if I say no, if I want to see my student compete? Then I revoke the bonus, and I send the university's report on you to immigration. You'll be deported with nothing." It was a checkmate. Amara looked at the man who now held every card. Her work was done. June was safe. She had the money she needed to start over, but it tasted like ashes. "I want to tell him goodbye," she said. "No, you will pack. You will leave. He will be told you had a family emergency." That night, Amara packed her single suitcase. She wrote June a letter and slipped it between the pages of his favorite book. In her room, she opened her laptop to book a flight. A news alert popped up on her browser. SCOJ&G University administrator found dead in apparent suicide. It was Dr. Park. The article was brief, a tragic end for a disgraced former employee. It mentioned the recent unfounded corruption allegations that had rocked the school. Amara's hands shook. Park wasn't suicidal. He was angry. He was a threat. She closed her laptop, the flight unbooked. She couldn't leave, not now. At 2 a.m., she went to Kang's study. He was still awake, reviewing contracts. "I'm not leaving," she said. He looked up, furious. "We had an agreement." "Dr. Park is dead. The man who served you champagne. They called it a suicide." Kang went still. What are you implying? I'm stating a fact. The man who helped me expose them is dead, and I am the only other person who has the full context of what he gave me. If I disappear tomorrow, what do you think happens next? She was no longer just a tutor or a whistleblower. She was a witness, and Kang realized with dawning horror that by silencing her, he might be making her a target. Her safety had become inexplicably tied to his own. What do you want? He asked, the words of surrender. I want to see June win. I want to stand in that auditorium. And then I want your help to publish the full story, not as a disgraced professor, but with a billionaire's backing. You're asking me to destroy my own legacy. I'm asking you to choose a real one, Amara said. Your son is about to become a national champion because he learned to think critically. What will you teach him by example? To hide from the truth or to build something true? Kang had no answer. He looked at the championship schedule on his desk. The first round was in 2 days. The finals, if June made it, were to be held in the Grand Hall of the National Education Center. It would be broadcast on national television. He made a call to his head of security. I need a detail on a member of my household, the tutor, 24/7, discreet. He hung up and looked at Amara. You'll attend, but we do this my way. You are Bella Oak, private tutor. You smile for the cameras, you say nothing. After it's over, we discuss the future. It was a fragile truce, built on a grave. The first round of the championship was a whirlwind. June, in his school blazer, faced off against teams from elite academies. The format was rapid-fire Q&A, advanced mathematics, historical analysis, scientific reasoning. June was calm, methodical. He didn't just answer questions. He deconstructed them, exposing their assumptions. It was Amara's teaching made flesh. He advanced, then advanced again. The Kang name started appearing in news coverage. The comeback kid, billionaire's son, becomes academic dark horse. The narrative was perfect. A father's faith, a son's hard work. But in the back of the auditorium, Amara watched, her security detail a few feet away. And from the VIP box, Kang watched her. He also watched the judges. One of them, the head of the mathematics panel, was a former Sejong University professor named Shin. Kang had seen his name in the leaked ledger, a recipient of a special research grant that had no paper trail. During a break, Kang saw Judge Shin approach Amara near the water cooler. He was smiling, congenial. But Kang, from his vantage point, saw the smile never reach the man's eyes. He saw Shin hand Amara a bottle of water. A minute later, Amara casually poured the water into a potted plant. That night, Kang's security chief reported, "We swept her room as instructed, found this in the pocket of her blazer." He placed a small, folded note on Kang's desk. It read in elegant handwriting, "The past should stay buried, for the boy's sake. Enjoy the championship. A friend." It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. The corruption wasn't confined to Sejong. It was in the championship judging panel, it was everywhere, and they knew she was here. The final round was tomorrow. June was one of 3 finalists. The trophy was within reach. But Kang now understood the trophy was the least of it. The real battle wasn't on the stage. It was in the shadows around it. And the woman he'd hired to win a championship for his son was now the central figure in a conspiracy that could get her killed and take his family down with her. He had 20 hours to decide. Protect his son's moment of glory by playing along with the very system he now doubted, or expose the rot and risk everything, including the boy on the stage. He looked at the note again, for the boy's sake. It was the worst threat of all, because it was true. Kang didn't sleep. He spent the night in his home office, the note from a friend laid beside a file his investigator had just delivered. The file was on Judge Shin. It didn't talk about his academic career. It talked about his debts. $2.3 million in gambling losses at a Macau casino, loans called in, a pending lien on his apartment, and a single, large deposit into his wife's bank account 6 months ago from a shell corporation registered in the British Virgin Islands. The corporation's director of record was a lawyer whose main client was the Sejong University Foundation. It was a blueprint, not for passion or ideology, for purchase. Judge Shin was owned. An hour before the final championship round, Kang requested a private word with Shin in the judge's anteroom. The room was soundproofed, lined with books. Kang didn't sit. "I know about the deposit," Kang said, his voice quiet. "I know about Macau. I know who owns you." Shin's face drained of color. "I don't know what you—" "My son will win today," Kang continued. "Not because of you. In spite of you, you will score him fairly. You will not look at my tutor. You will do nothing. If you do, I will send this file to the National Tax Service and every media outlet in Seoul before you leave this building. You will spend your remaining years in a prison cell and your family will be destitute. Nod if you understand." Judge Shin nodded. The final round was a spectacle. Broadcast live on educational television. 3 boys on a stage under hot lights. The format was a debate. The topic: the ends justify the means in national progress. June was assigned the against position. Amara watched from the back row, her security detail a silent presence beside her. Kang watched from the VIP box, his eyes on Judge Shin, who kept his head down, scoring meticulously. June was brilliant. He didn't just argue ethics, he dismantled the question itself. "The phrase national progress is the means," he said, his voice clear in the microphone. "If we corrupt the process to achieve it, the achievement is a forgery. It is not progress. It is a facsimile of progress, and eventually the facade will crack." He cited historical examples. He quoted philosophers. He sounded unmistakably like his tutor. The audience was captivated. The other finalists stumbled. When the scores were tallied, June Kang's name was at the top, by a significant margin. The trophy, a heavy crystal obelisk, was placed in his hands. The auditorium erupted. Cameras flashed. Kang, in the front row, felt a surge of pure, unadulterated pride. Then he saw his son's face. June wasn't looking at the trophy. He was scanning the crowd, looking for someone. He found Amara at the back of the hall. He smiled, a real, deep smile, and raised the trophy slightly in her direction. It was a tiny gesture, but a camera caught it. The broadcast cut to a reaction shot of the mystery tutor in the background, a dark-skinned woman in a simple blouse and glasses, arms crossed, a small, knowing smile on her face. In that moment, in millions of homes, 2 stories collided: the heartwarming tale of the underdog's son and the unidentified woman who made it happen. Backstage, in the chaos of congratulations, Kang pulled June aside. "You were magnificent." "Ms. Bella taught me how to think," June said, still buzzing. "Where is she? I want to thank her." "She had to go," Kang said, the lie ash in his mouth. "Family emergency." June's face fell. She didn't say goodbye. It was sudden. As Kang led his son away, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. It was a single image, a screenshot of the broadcast focused on Amara's face in the background. The message below read, "A face is now public. We can discuss her future. Call this number." They had found her, and they were making their move. Kang's first instinct was to pay. To make the problem go away, he called the number. A man answered, voice smooth, professional. "Mr. Kang, congratulations on your son's achievement. A tutor of such rare skill must be in high demand. We are concerned her past controversies might overshadow your family's happy moment. We can ensure a smooth narrative." "What do you want?" "A donation to a fund that supports academic integrity. $10 million. In return, we guarantee no inconvenient stories will emerge linking your household to the Sejong scandal." It was blackmail, but framed as philanthropy. Kang played for time. He said he'd consider it. He hung up and went straight to Amara, who was waiting in a secured car in the underground garage. "They're blackmailing me, using you." Amara wasn't surprised. They need to control the story. My face on TV is a loose end. What did you tell them? That I'd think about it. Good, now we counter. Amara opened her laptop. For months, she had been doing more than tutoring. She had been building a case. Using the Kang family's secure internet, she had accessed encrypted cloud storage. She showed Kang files, not just the original Xiaojung documents, but new ones. Email chains she'd obtained from Dr. Park before he died. Financial transfers linking the shell corporation that paid Judge Shin to a web of other shell companies. And at the center of the web, not just Chancellor Yu, but 3 other university heads, 2 senior government officials in the Ministry of Education, and the CEO of the country's largest Hagwon chain. It wasn't one corrupt university. It was a syndicate, a cartel that controlled the pipeline from elite kindergarten to corporate boardroom, skimming money, trading favors, and fixing outcomes at every level. The national championship itself had been subtly rigged for a decade, favoring students from connected families or those whose parents made the right donations. This is why Park was killed, Amara said, her finger on the screen. He knew it was systemic. This is what I wanted to publish, not a scandal, an ecosystem. Kang stared at the data. The scale of it dwarfed his worst fears. His own donations had been a part of this machine. He had been a cog, believing he was building excellence when he was just paying for his seat at a rigged table. We go public, Amara said, all of it. They'll destroy us. They have the media, the police, the courts. They have corruption, Amara corrected. We have proof. And we have a national champion who just gave a speech about facades cracking. The public will believe him. It was a huge gamble. Kang would be burning his entire social and business network. His company's stock would crash. He'd be a pariah among the elite. But the alternative was to pay the blackmail and live as a hostage in his own life, knowing his son's achievement was built on a foundation he helped keep rotten. He made his decision. We need a lawyer, not mine, someone they can't touch. I know someone, Amara said, a human rights attorney. She represented academics before, she's fearless. They met the attorney, Lee Jaiwon, in a safe house that night. Lee reviewed the evidence for 2 hours in silence. When she looked up, her eyes were sharp. This is prosecutable, but you cannot leak it to the media first. That lets them frame it as a smear campaign. You must go to the prosecutor's office with it, officially, as a criminal complaint. I know one senior prosecutor who is clean. She's been looking for a case like this. A plan formed. They would file the complaint the next morning. Then they would hold a press conference, with Kang and Amara standing together, with June by their side. They would control the narrative from the first second. But the syndicate had eyes everywhere. As Kang and Amara left the safe house at 4 a.m., a black sedan followed them. Kang's security detail evaded it, but the message was clear. They were being watched. At 6 a.m., Kang's home landline rang. It was Chancellor Yu. His voice was no longer honeyed. It was cold steel. Min-jun, we need to talk. You've been misled by a convicted fraudster. Bring her to the university at 9. We can settle this internally, for the good of everyone, especially your son. Are you threatening my son? I'm talking about his future. The championship title can be made permanent, or it can be reevaluated. There were questions about judging impartiality. A review could change the outcome. Such a shame after all his hard work. It was the worst threat, not violence, invalidation. They would strip June of his victory, turn his triumph into a controversy, and make him a laughingstock. Kang's hand tightened on the phone. He saw Amara across the room watching him. He mouthed the word "you." She understood. Kang took a breath. 9 a.m., he said, I'll be there. He hung up. They're going to try to nullify June's win. Then we move faster, Amara said. They woke June. Kang sat him down and told him everything. The corruption, the threats, what they planned to do. The boy listened, his championship trophy on the table between them. When his father finished, June was quiet for a long time. Ms. Bella, you're the professor they fired. Yes, Amara said. And you were right. Yes. June looked at the trophy. Then he pushed it toward his father. If I keep this because we stay quiet, then it's not a real trophy. It's a bribe. I don't want it. At 7 a.m., accompanied by Attorney Lee and 2 bodyguards, they walked into the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's office. The complaint, a terabyte of data, was formally submitted. The senior prosecutor, a stern woman named Seo, accepted it. This will take time, she warned. They are powerful. We know, Kang said. We're not waiting. At 8:30 a.m., they stood on the steps of the prosecutor's office, a hastily called press conference. Microphones were shoved forward. Kang Min-jun stepped up, Amara Oak at his side. He did not look like a victorious father. He looked like a man who had seen the abyss. My name is Kang Min-jun. Last night, my son won the National Academic Championship. This morning, I am here to report a crime. The system that produced that championship is poisoned. The press conference lasted 11 minutes. It took less than 11 seconds for the country's news cycle to implode. Billionaire accuses education elite of systemic corruption. Champion Tutor revealed as whistleblower. The headlines weren't just stories. They were detonations. Chancellor Yu watched it from his office at Siajang. By the time Kang said the words criminal conspiracy, Yu was already on the phone to his lawyers. By the time Amara stepped to the microphone and calmly summarized the evidence, Yu was packing a briefcase. He was arrested attempting to board a flight to Vietnam 6 hours later. Charges: fraud, bribery, obstruction of justice. Judge Shin, seeing the news, walked into a police station and offered to cooperate. His testimony unlocked the first layer: the shell corporations, the rigged competition scoring from the previous 2 years, the names of 3 other judges on the take. The senior prosecutor, Seo, moved with startling speed. Raids were conducted simultaneously at the Siajang University Foundation offices, the Ministry of Education, and the headquarters of the massive Hagwon chain. Boxes of documents were seized. Hard drives were cloned. The syndicate, built on whispers and handshakes, was dismantled by search warrants and subpoenas. Public reaction was a tsunami of outrage. Parents who had spent lifetimes and fortunes on tutoring felt betrayed. Students who had lost placements to connected rivals protested. The hashtag #EmptyTrophy trended for 3 days. The government, facing a massive scandal in an election year, announced a special committee to reform the entire national university admissions process. For Kang, the consequences were immediate and brutal. His company's stock price dropped 37% in the first week. 3 major board members resigned. Longtime business partners stopped returning calls. He was a pariah in the country clubs and golf courses that had been his second home. The blackmail attempts stopped, replaced by a more profound silence. He had chosen truth over tribe, and the tribe had expelled him. But he also received thousands of letters, from ordinary parents, from teachers, thanking him. His public image transformed from a remote billionaire to a reluctant revolutionary. He donated his entire remaining foundation fund, $22 million, to establish a transparent scholarship program for low-income students. It was named the June Kang Merit Award. For June, the world became surreal. He kept his trophy. The championship committee, under intense public scrutiny, ratified his win after a review confirmed his answers were independently brilliant. But at school, he was both a celebrity and a curiosity. Some classmates revered him. Others whispered that his father had bought the championship by blowing up the system. He learned a hard lesson. Doing the right thing doesn't make you popular. It makes you different. He asked Amara about it one afternoon, weeks after the scandal. Does it feel worth it? She thought about it. The truth isn't about feeling good. It's about being free. You're free now. You know the trophy is yours. No one can ever take that certainty away from you. June nodded. He was 11, but he understood. Amara's life underwent its own seismic shift. The charges against her at Xiajiang were officially dismissed, deemed retaliatory. Her academic record was expunged of all misconduct claims. With Kang's legal and financial backing, she sued the university for wrongful termination and defamation. The settlement was substantial and, more importantly, public. Her visa was not only renewed, she was offered a special Distinguished Talent residency. Job offers flooded in, not from old, prestigious universities, but from new, experimental ones, from policy think tanks, from a national television network that wanted her to host a show investigating institutional power. She turned them all down. Instead, she accepted a position as the head of a new, independent academic integrity watchdog office, funded by a coalition of parents and smaller universities. Her first act was to publish every single document from the scandal on a public, searchable database, total transparency. She called it the Foundation. Its motto, "Sunlight is the best teacher." The personal dynamics in the Kang penthouse settled into a new, quiet normal. Amara no longer lived there as staff. She came and went as a friend, a colleague. Every Tuesday night she still came to cook, jollof rice. The kitchen smelled of Scotch bonnets and onions. June did his homework at the counter. Kang, more often than not, found a reason to be there, chopping vegetables badly, asking questions about her work. One such Tuesday, 6 months after the press conference, Attorney Lee visited with an update. The prosecutions were proceeding. Chancellor Yu and 4 others were facing lengthy prison terms. The entire leadership of the Hagwon chain had been replaced. The Ministry of Education was undergoing a top-to-bottom audit. Then Lee slid a single sheet of paper across the counter to Kang. "This came up in the discovery process. You should see it." It was a bank transfer record dated 5 years earlier, from the Kang Group's corporate account to the same shell corporation that had later paid Judge Shin. The amount was $200,000. The description line read, "Consulting fee admissions liaison." Kang stared at it, his face paled. "I never authorized this." "I know," Lee said. "Our forensic accountant traced it. It was authorized by your former chief financial officer. He was on Xiajiang's payroll as a consultant. He was siphoning money from your company into their slush fund and marking it as a business expense. You were funding the corruption you hated, and you never knew." The room was silent. The weight of it pressed down on Kang. His own company, his own money, had been weaponized against everything he now believed. Amara watched him, her expression unreadable. "What happened to the CFO?" Kang asked, his voice thick. "He fled to Malaysia the day after the raids. We're seeking extradition." Kang put the paper down. He looked at June, then at Amara. "I'm sorry." "You didn't know," Amara said. "That's not an excuse," Kang replied. "That's the problem. I didn't want to know. I wrote checks and asked no questions. I was the perfect donor." It was the final, surprising twist. The corruption wasn't just something out there, performed by cartoon villains. It was a system that ensnared even those who thought they were above it. Kang's journey wasn't just about exposing others. It was about confronting his own complicity through blissful ignorance. That confrontation changed him. He stepped down as CEO of the Kang Group. He sold off large portions of his holdings and poured the capital into ethical venture funds and the new integrity watchdog Amara ran. He became, in the eyes of the public, a man who had not just confessed the sins of the system, but was actively doing penance. A year to the day after the championship, a ceremony was held at the National Education Center, not in the competition hall, but in the main auditorium. It was the launch of the reformed national academic standards, built on principles of transparency and merit. Amara Oak was the keynote speaker. She stood at the podium, no longer in a maid's uniform or a simple blouse, but in a sharp suit. She spoke about the cost of truth and the greater cost of lies. She spoke about the courage of students like June, who valued real achievement over empty trophies. She did not mention Kang by name, but he was in the front row, listening. After the speech, as the crowd mingled, June found her. He was taller now. "You were good," he said. "You're just being polite." "No, I'm being honest. You taught me that." Kang approached, holding 2 glasses of water. He handed one to Amara. "A year ago, I was going to have you deported. A year ago, I was going to write a blog post that 10 people would read," Amara replied. "Funny how things change." "What happens now?" Kang asked, the question hanging between them, larger than the moment. Amara smiled, a real, relaxed smile. "Now I go back to work. You go back to your investments. June goes back to school, and next Tuesday I'm trying a new jollof recipe. It's spicier." "Is that an invitation?" Kang asked, a tentative hope in his voice that had nothing to do with rice. "It's jollof," Amara said, echoing her words from a lifetime ago in a different kitchen. "Don't ruin it." From across the room, June watched them, a knowing look on his young face. He pulled out his phone and took a picture, not of the stage or the dignitaries, of them. His father, the reformed king. His tutor, the relentless professor, talking quietly by a window, the light of a changed city behind them. The story that began with a hidden identity and a bought championship ended not with a single victory, but with a new foundation being laid. Brick by honest brick, the disgraced professor was redeemed. The billionaire lost his empire but found his conscience. The boy with the trophy learned that the greatest prize isn't a thing you hold, but a truth you can live with. The system had cracked, and through the cracks, something stronger was finally growing. So what does this story leave us with? Not just a tale of a scandal exposed, but a map of how power protects itself, and what it takes to redraw the lines. For decades, the South Korean education system, and many like it around the world, operated on a simple, unspoken contract. Parents pay in money and anxiety. Students compete with their childhood as currency. And at the top, a network of institutions and individuals takes a cut, financial and social, to keep the wheel spinning. It wasn't evil in a cartoonish sense. It was efficient, it was rational, and it was utterly corrupt. Amara Ok and Kang Min-jun, from opposite ends of that machine, did something irrational. They stopped being efficient. She sacrificed her career for a principle. He sacrificed his social capital for a truth. And in doing so, they revealed the machine's greatest weakness. It relies entirely on the consent of those within it, on the willingness to not ask the next question, to not look too closely at the watermark on the page. June, the boy in the middle, became the symbol of a different possibility. That achievement doesn't have to be a product purchased from a rigged market. It can be the outcome of real curiosity, nurtured by someone who teaches you how to think, not just what to think. His trophy is real because he knows what it cost and what it didn't. The prosecutions will end. The news cycles will move on. The reformed policies will be tested. The lingering question this story asks is not about Korea or education or even corruption. It's about proximity. How close are you to a system you know is wrong? Are you funding it? Are you working within it? Are you, perhaps unknowingly, benefiting from its quiet mechanics? Amara's journey from a podium of disgrace to a platform of influence shows that exile from a broken system is not an end. It can be a beginning. Kang's fall from grace among the elite wasn't a loss of power, but a transfer of it, from the power of influence to the power of example. The most dangerous person in any room is not the one shouting the loudest. It's the one who has nothing left to lose by telling the truth. And sometimes, that person is wearing a maid's uniform. Sometimes, they're sitting in a billionaire's chair. Sometimes, they're an 11-year-old boy who simply understands that a fake trophy is heavier than no trophy at all. Systems are fragile. They are stories we agree to tell each other. And when someone stops agreeing, when someone points to the cracks in the narrative, the whole edifice can tremble. All it takes is one person to speak, and another to listen. This was the story of a trophy, a tutor, and the truth that outlasted them both. If you found this dive into the shadows of power compelling, make sure to subscribe. We're just getting started.